What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Pistons Daily, where you can find content covering all things Detroit Pistons all year long. As always, I'm your host. My name is Kyle Garrison. I'm over on Twitter at Kyle Garrison2, where I talk all things Detroit sports. So head over there, give me comments, questions, concerns, episode ideas. I'd love to hear from all you guys. Also, shout out to everyone who tunes in every single day. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way to help support the channel. With that being said, let's jump into episode 78 of Pistons Daily. So I'm recording this on Thursday, October 30th. You guys will be seeing this tomorrow on Friday, so happy Halloween to everybody. And I just wanted to kind of recap this up and down week of Pistons basketball. Obviously, on Monday night, the Pistons fell by 21 points, 116 to 95 over the Cleveland Cavaliers. And we'll just talk about a short list of what went well. There wasn't a lot in this game, but we'll touch on that, and then we'll kind of dive into just what needs work and where I saw room for a lot of improvement in Monday's game. So first things first, just talking about the bench depth on this team. It looked solid in the Cleveland game. The starters were not good whatsoever, but you got some productivity from guys like Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart. When we're just looking at Ron Holland, I thought that he had a pretty decent game overall. 11 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 2 turnovers, 4 of 9 from the field, but 2 of 3 from behind the arc. And that in itself is encouraging, hitting 2 threes. There was not a lot of games last year where he could say that, and Ron had 2 threes on Monday, ended up having 2 threes again on Wednesday versus the Magic. So we're really seeing Ron come into his own as a three-point shooter, especially from the corners. He looks much more comfortable. There's not hesitation in his shot. He's just getting it and he's shooting it because he knows that this team has a lack of perimeter shooting, and he's a guy that has a very repeatable jump shot, and it looks much improved from his rookie year. So he wants to show it off, and I don't blame him whatsoever. So glad to see that he knocked down a couple of threes in Monday's game despite the loss. And then I thought Dennis Jenkins looked very solid in his minutes. He played 22 minutes, had 9 points, 3 steals, 5 assists, 4 of 6 from the field. He hit a three-pointer. A lot of his minutes were in garbage time late in the game, but again, just something that's encouraging. I watch all these games through and through regardless if we're getting killed, and we were getting killed on Monday. But just continuing to kind of watch the development of some of these young guys, some players that might have to step into bigger roles if there are more injuries. Obviously, we already are a very injured team right now with Jaden Ivey out, Marcus Sasser out, Karis LeVert was out, did come back Wednesday night, didn't play in Monday's game though. So there was some room for a guy like Dennis Jenkins to step in, and he did, and I thought that he played well enough. Comparatively speaking, when you're looking at the rest of the roster. But I thought he had some good moments, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him throughout the rest of the year. And then Isaiah Stewart, he was everywhere on defense once again. I think that he was one of the only bright spots on this team. Offensively, he didn't do much. He had 4 points, was 1 of 9 from the field, 1 of 4 from behind the arc, but he did have 9 rebounds. He had 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. And I just thought that he played defense very solid. He made it hard for guys like Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley to get buckets at the rim when it seemed like when he wasn't in the game, they had a free path to the basket anytime they wanted. But when Stu was on the floor, he made it a little bit more difficult. And that wasn't saying much because it felt like Cleveland really had their way offensively throughout the first 3 quarters and change. So Isaiah Stewart did what he could, but again, it wasn't enough. You need everybody on the team to step up defensively, and it just wasn't the case. So, but I will, give him his flowers for that. I thought he played pretty well just in that game overall. And again, not a lot of bright spots from this team. But I will say, I think Isaiah Stewart across the first 5 games, if you're going to look at one area of this team that has been consistent in all 5 games, I think Isaiah Stewart's just relentlessness on defense and just the fact that he's always locked in on that side of the floor has remained consistent, and I expect will remain consistent throughout the rest of the 77 games in the regular season. But that's really it for what went well in Monday's game. I mean, I didn't mention a single starter in that category because, well, the starters weren't good. They did not play up to their standard, and we're going to talk about them more here in what needs work. So definitely some major changes needed to be made after Monday's game. And thankfully that I had another game before I made this episode because they did change. I thought that Wednesday looked much cleaner, much better. Granted, it was against a worse team. But again, the Magic are still somebody that you have to keep an eye on in the Eastern Conference. They have some good players. They're not playing up to their standard. But changes were made and adjustments were made. And that's all you can ask for. But I wanted to just talk about kind of what needed work from Monday's game, just so we can kind of look back on that later in the year and say, man, look at this team compared to where they were against Cleveland in late October. But overall, 37.9% from the field, 32% from three, which is honestly right around their season mark right now. But from the field, they've been much better at the rim and the mid-range, and they were not on Monday. You just had one of the worst shooting performances of really any team this season in the NBA. If you look at just raw field goal percentage, there's not a lot of teams that have been under 38%. And the Pistons were one of them on Monday. And it had a lot to do with Cade. He was 3 of 14 from the field, 1 of 7 from 3. You had Tobias Harris, 2 of 8 from the field. You had Duncan Robinson, 3 of 8. Jalen Duren was 3 of 5, but more foul trouble. He wasn't able to stay on the floor, only played 21 minutes. Asar Thompson was sick, so I think that also had to do a little bit with just the lack of defense. But your starters were all under 50%. You had Tobias at 25, Duncan at 37, Cade at 21, and then Asar was at 50, Jalen Duren at 60, but both of them only took 6 and 5 shots respectively. So it was just not a great offensive performance, and there was a lot of reasons for that. One of them, I think that just the floor spacing, again, wasn't good. You only made 11 threes on 34 attempts, and that's just not going to cut it against a Cleveland team who they only had 11 threes on 35 attempts, so they actually shot worse from three-point range than you did. But when they were in the paint, when they were in the mid-range, when they got the ball to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley and specifically Donovan Mitchell, they weren't missing shots. So that was a big reason for that. You had 4 players with 4 more fouls, so guys just weren't able to stay on the court at times, and you had to make adjustments, and that's why we saw a lot of minutes from guys like Ron Holland, which isn't a bad thing. I love Ron Holland. I think he was a great player, but then you saw minutes from Javonte Green, who he struggled. He was 1 of 5 from the field, and then you had more minutes from guys like Chaz Lanier and Dennis Jenkins down the stretch in garbage time, which I want to see those players succeed, but I also don't want it to be at the expense of this team. And when they get minutes and when they get excessive minutes, it's probably because you're losing by a lot or you're winning by a lot. And obviously on Monday, the case was we were losing by a lot. So again, you just got to clean up the offensive. The half-court offense wasn't great. And when you're not able to get stops on the defensive end, you're not able to run out in transition. That's where the Pistons have thrived offensively the last 2 years. And they just couldn't get anything going in that regard on Monday night. And then Duncan Robinson, he was just getting torched on defense all night. Whenever Donovan Mitchell saw Duncan Robinson was guarding him one-on-one, it was like deer in the headlights. He went straight to work and ended up putting up 35 points on the night and was really just killing us all night. It really didn't matter who you put on him. I'm just singling Duncan out here because I felt there was a lot of moments where he was singled out defensively by the Cavaliers offense. But anybody that was guarding Donovan all night long was really just getting torched. So that's got to be better. You have to find a way to mitigate the impact that the other team's best player can have, like they did against the Magic on Wednesday night. They really slowed down Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. But again, Monday was a different story. Couldn't find a way to slow down the star players for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and you ended up losing by 21 points. Again, half-court offense was honestly just unwatchable on Monday night. There was a lot of moments where you could just see they are not quite there as a collective unit when it comes to that half-court offense, and it's going to take some time, especially when you don't have Asar Thompson out there. Cade Cunningham was really relied on as that primary ball handler throughout the entire game, and we've seen the Pistons really try to take the ball out of his hands and allow him to be more of an off-ball player, and he's been very good at that. So just again, you got to find ways to have some variety on offense. It can't just always be on Cade, because when it is, the defense keys in on him. You've got 5 guys surrounding him when he's driving to the paint, and I mean, that's just not going to work out for this team. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was just the overall effort. After halftime, it just seemed like nobody was engaged. The help defense was non-existent, and I can understand when you lose a game when the other team is just dominating you. But again, like I mentioned, they shot worse from three-point range than you did, and they still found a way to absolutely crush you. And I just think that Cleveland had left the door open for a comeback multiple times. You just couldn't stop getting in your own way if you're the Pistons, and it just wasn't going to cut it. There was a lot of moments where they could have tried to make a little bit of a run and even make the game reasonable, but Cleveland just kept stepping on your throat, and you just kept finding ways to shoot yourself in the foot, turn the ball over, miss open shots, not capitalize on free throws and one opportunities. You were fouling too much, and it just wasn't in the cards on Monday night. And again, it's an 82-game season, so we're going to take every game one at a time, and we're not going to get too high or get too low, but just a lot of things from Monday that you needed to work on. And again, the silver lining is, however, the Cavs are one of the best teams in the league, and they're the best team in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, and I really don't think it's close. They dominated the Knicks. The Knicks haven't looked really like themselves yet, and Cleveland is picking it up and playing a very, very solid brand of basketball right now. Granted, they lost to the Celtics on Wednesday night, but just like I'm saying here, and I'm just like I'm sure Cavaliers podcasters are saying as well, it's an 82-game season. It's going to be fine. And it was. I mean, the Pistons bounced back very, very well against Orlando on Wednesday night, a game that you really needed to have. You're playing against a team that people were expecting to be better than you this year after you were better than them last year. And it's because of they went out and they shelled out 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, and he's looked horrible. And their team in general just doesn't look good. They got Jalen Suggs back healthy, which I think people thought was going to be a big boost for them, and it really hasn't been. So very, very just good to see them bounce back and dominate a team that you are better than. The Pistons are a better team than the Magic. I mean, we saw it last night, and I expect that to continue through the rest of the season. But let's just talk about what went well versus Orlando, and there's a lot more than there was against Cleveland on Monday night. Other than the first quarter, really everything went right. Cade Cunningham single-handedly just took this game over by himself, especially in the second half. He got to his spots whenever he wanted. He was finishing through contact. As a team, we finished multiple and one opportunities, and that's been a big problem in the past. I've preached it. We need to find a way to finish through contact. There's a lot of missed opportunities where we just can't finish on light foul calls. And if you do that, it just mitigates the error that can happen when you go to the free throw line, when you have 2 free throws. You can miss those. You can, you can go to the free throw line and you can miss those free throws. So when you finish those and one opportunities, you get a shot at another point. It's one less free throw than you would have to take. And it's fun. And one opportunities are fun. You see the team, they do the Cade Cunningham, the and one celebration. Tobias was doing it on Wednesday night. Jalen Duren was doing it. Cade was doing it. And it just makes the game more fun, and the crowd gets more energized. And it just shows that you are playing more physical than the opposing team. And we know the Orlando Magic are very, very physical, and they didn't get away with it on Wednesday night. The Pistons were finishing through it. So great to see that. Also, staying on the topic of Cade Cunningham, 3 blocks, 3 steals, showed off that he's one of the best, if not the best, rim-protecting guard in the entire NBA. Absolutely stuffed Jalen Suggs on his dunk attempt. What are you doing, Jalen Suggs? Do not jump. Do not go up for that, man. You gotta take a step back and realize that Cade is so slept on as a rim-protecting guard, and he was not having any of that. So love to see that. And also, he finished with 0 turnovers. Cade Cunningham finished with 0 turnovers in a game where he had 10 assists. 30 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 0 turnovers, 12 of 24 from the field. Just overall, just an unbelievable performance from Cade. I think this might have been the best game that I've seen from him from both sides of the floor in his entire career. So just love that he followed up a pretty just horrendous game overall on Monday with a beautiful game on Wednesday night, willed this team to victory, and it was evident. And then Tobias Harris, just, again, his best game of the year. 23 points, 8 of 13 shooting, was all over the place, was bodying smaller defenders, was shooting over the top of the defense, was getting to his spots, and you could just see he felt that confidence. As soon as Paolo Banchero started talking crazy, Tobias Harris just knew he had to shut him up, and it's exactly what he did. I mean, Paolo was out there calling players too little, calling Tobias Harris old, saying he couldn't guard him, and it didn't bother Tobias whatsoever. He continued to cook. He continued to let his game do the talking, and he let Paolo know about it a couple times. So love to see that. And I just wanted to say, Paolo Banchero is the most overrated player in the NBA, and I am 100% serious. Year in and year out, the Magic are literally a better statistical team with him off the floor. He is not a good basketball player. He takes bad shots. He relies way too much on fouls to be productive, and he talks so much. He talks like he's a proven superstar in this league, and he's not. He is not a superstar. He is the second best player maybe on his team right now, and he needs to humble himself. And Tobias Harris did that for him. So just love that Tobias Harris got the last laugh. And I can't wait to see the Magic and Paolo Banchero 3 more times this year, because it's 3 more opportunities to shut Paolo Banchero up. Talking that much in the first quarter and then going to the free throw line and missing both of them, no. You can't do that. You can't get away with that, especially with how good the players are in the NBA right now. You cannot get away with that. So very, very glad to see that Tobias Harris ended up getting that last laugh. And don't want to pile too much on Paolo Banchero. He's been getting dragged right now on social media, and I don't think he's a bad person. I think that he's not as good as people think, and there's a pretty wide gap between somebody like Cade Cunningham and somebody like Paolo Banchero. But Jalen Duren, moving on, Jalen Duren looked great handling the ball. He dominated Wendell Carter, dominated Goga Bitadze all night long. Really fun to just see Jalen Duren kind of come into his own throughout this game. You could see that he felt much more comfortable actually handling the ball and getting down to the rim. He wasn't having guys swipe down on him as much as he had been in previous games, and it showed. He ended up, with 21 points, 13 rebounds. He did have 5 turnovers, and I think, again, that's just because he's new to having the ball in his hands a little bit more, and that's going to come with time. But he was 5 of 9 from the field, another 11 of 12 from the free throw line, 92% from the free throw line in Wednesday's game. And I just wanted to look. What is he shooting? He's shooting 83.9% from the free throw line this year. Absolutely love to see that from Jalen Duren. And then moving on, Duncan Robinson, he was hitting no-dip shots from the corner, and his presence was just felt off ball all night. Even when he wasn't hitting shots or scoring, the defense just has to key in on him because he's such a lethal shooter. And he was once again on Wednesday night really coming into his own, kind of putting that first game against the Bulls behind him. I think he went 0 for, but was great. 15 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 4 of 6 from behind the three-point line, and plus 22. So shout out Duncan Robinson for just a great overall game. And then Asar Thompson, I think he struggled from the floor a little bit. I believe he took 14 shots and only made 4 of them, but he just did the little things that are needed to win games like this. He was offensive rebounding. I think he had 11 rebounds total, 5 of them offensive, 6 of them defensive. He had 6 assists, so he's finding open players. He's comfortable as a primary facilitator right now, and he looked great doing it. So absolutely just love to see what he did on the offensive end. And then he was playing tough defense on the Magic's best player all night long, making it very, very hard for Franz Wagner. And you could tell he was getting very, very frustrated. He missed a lot of shots, did Franz Wagner. He was 6 of 14 from the field. He hit, and 3 of them were threes, but if you take out the three-pointers, he was 3 of 10 from inside the arc. So again, just hands up, making it hard on him, not letting him get to his spots and shoot his little hook shot runners. They were letting him shoot it, but there was always a hand up and there was always backside help on the rebounds. And that's where he's made his money in the past couple of years. So glad to see that they were able to shut down Franz Wagner, who has been a thorn in the Pistons side in the past. But as far as shooting goes, Ron Holland hit 2 threes, Javonte Green hit 3, and you absolutely need perimeter shooting off this bench right now. So having guys that are comfortable kind of stepping into those roles is massive, especially with Jaden Ivey and Marcus Sasser out right now. So shout out to Ron, shout out to Javonte Green. Ron has multiple three-pointers made in back-to-back games. Absolutely love to see it. But just overall, a really fun game to watch. Bounce back after just an ugly performance. And that's what good teams do, is they don't get too high, they don't get too low, they don't let one game bleed into the next. The Pistons completely erased their memory from Monday night, turned it around Wednesday, and really just put together the best performance that I've seen them have this year. And it started and ended with Cade Cunningham, and he was a monster on a Wednesday night. So love to see that. But now you're 3-2 after a very tough stretch to open the season. I mean, you had the Rockets, the Celtics, the Magic, the Cavaliers, the Bulls, who are playing unbelievable right now. They are just tearing teams apart. So you kept that game close, and you were able to make a comeback too. So with how they're playing right now, it doesn't look like too bad of a loss. I think people were a little bit worried after night one, but again, it's a new NBA season, and Chicago looks like a pretty solid competitive team right now. They beat the Magic and the Hawks and the Pistons right now. So kind of showing up some of the teams that people thought were going to make that next leap in the Eastern Conference. So losing to the Bulls doesn't look as bad. Obviously, you want to beat them as many times as you can. You have 3 more shots to do it. You have 3 more shots against the Cavs as well. And you have 3 more shots against the Magic, which will be fun. But before we wrap up, let's just talk about a couple things that need some work from Wednesday's game. First quarter needs to be better. That was the only quarter that the Pistons didn't outscore the Magic in, and I believe they've gotten outscored in every game this season in the first quarter. And if you want to be a competitive team, if you want to be a top 10 team in the NBA, you have to get off to better starts. You have to find a way to at least make it difficult for these very good teams, because when you give them a 10-point cushion at the end of the first quarter, they're able to make adjustments and run how they want to run. They set the pace of the game, and from there on out, it just becomes an uphill battle, and that's kind of been the case. Again, against the Magic, you started off slow but picked it up and were dominant in the second, third, and fourth quarters. So it didn't matter as much, but if that game would have gone the other way, probably would be looking at the first quarter as something, as a big learning point and just what needs to improve going forward. And then you have to stop fouling as much, especially Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart. We need their defense. We need their energy. We need them to be available. And we had the second most fouls going into Wednesday night. We're probably at 1 at this point, because we had, let's look, how many fouls did the Pistons have against the Magic on Wednesday? Let's see if I can pull that up. 28. You had 28 fouls on Wednesday night. That is just way too many. I know that the Magic are very physical. They're a physical downhill attacking team with, like I mentioned, Paolo Banchero gets to the free throw line a ton because he is a strong player. I will give him that. He's very, very strong. He's a hard player to keep in front of you. But when you do and you force him to take bad shots, he will take those shots and he will miss them. So I'm glad to see in the second half they stopped fouling him as much and giving him free opportunities for points at the free throw line. But throughout an entire game, throughout an entire 48 minutes, you have to find a way to stop fouling as much. I mean, Isaiah Stewart, I think he had like 4 fouls within like a 10-minute span. I mean, there's just so many times where they get on these fouling streaks and it feels like every other possession they pick one up, and it just limits their availability. So we need those guys out there, need to clean that up. But other than that, that would mean that was pure domination from the second quarter on, and you came away with the dub. That's all that matters. But the Pistons will now head to Mexico City to take on the Mavericks on Saturday. So stay tuned for that episode coming on Monday. But let's go get win number 4 on the young season and start off 4-2. We would love to see that. But that's all I've got for you guys today in episode 78 of Pistons Daily. Apologize, this one ran a little bit long. But as always, like, subscribe, comment, turn on post notifications, and follow me on Twitter over at Kyle Garrison 2. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. With that being said, that is going to do it here for episode 78 of Pistons Daily, and I'll catch you all next time.